Good to have you back for another episode of Masks Off for People Pleasers and Perfectionists. I'm Kim Gross and I am your host. And today I'm doing a solo episode. And if you live in the United States, today is July 4th, Independence Day. So I have my blue on. For those of you who are just listening, I don't have the red and white. So, in any event, today I wanted to take the opportunity, since it is about Independence Day, and talk about celebrating yourself and celebrating independence, hopefully independence. And when I talk about independence in relationship to this podcast, I'm talking about the freedom from people pleasing and perfectionistic tendencies. I'm talking about freedom from a lifelong journey of feeling unworthy, not enough, and not living the life that you want to live. That's the freedom I'm talking about here. Personal freedom. So, throughout my life and my journey, when I didn't have that freedom, I felt like I was in a mental prison. What do I mean by mental prison? I felt that I was chained to, tied to, imprisoned by my thoughts, my emotions, my reactivity. I didn't feel that I was capable of doing what I wanted to do and live according to my expectations. Most of the time, I was trying to second guess or even just really know what other people wanted or expected from me. And I was living according to those expectations. So I was living according to things, people, places, and things that were on the outside of myself instead of tuning into myself and saying, what do I want? What do I need? What do I believe? And how do I live my life according to that? So, in this episode, I'm going to talk about how and why it's important to be able to believe in yourself. So, I often would look at the yardstick behind me rather than how the yardstick in front of me. Like, how far did I come in my growth? And was I able to celebrate myself? Was I able to see my goodness? And oftentimes the answer was no. I had a really hard time receiving compliments and believing that I was worthy. And again, this comes from my childhood wounds. And that's often the reason that we all have these patterns and these tendencies, is because in childhood, we ended up having these wounds that were given or created by our caregivers, where we learned and were conditioned that we weren't worthy. We weren't good enough in some way, shape, or form. So, receiving compliments was really hard. It was hard to see my progress, my growth. I was always looking at how much more I had to do or needed to do. The pedal was always to the metal in terms of pushing myself and having internal pressure to just do more, be more. And very rarely did I feel that it was okay to just be my true self and just really believe that who I was innately was enough. And so if you're listening to this, I'm going to venture out and guess and say that you're listening to this podcast because you, on some level, know, or you absolutely know, that you have perfectionistic tendencies and or people pleasing tendencies. So if that's the case and that's you, then you know exactly what I'm talking about this pressure of it's never enough. What you do is never enough, and it's go. And you're always trying to prove your worth by the things that you do, and you don't feel worthy just because of who you are. And so that's why on this day, Independence Day, I chose to talk about celebrating yourself and helping you to see the importance of believing in yourself and knowing that you're worthy. We are all worthy just because we were born. That's just a given. That's true. We are innately worthy just because we were freaking born. The energy that is, and I say this all the time, and I'm going to keep on saying this because it's so important and so freaking true. The energy that is in you, that is the same energy that's in me, which is the same energy that's in the trees, the sky, the ocean, lakes, flowers, plants. And it's all divine energy. It's all worthy energy. It's, if you want to call it, you can call it God energy, universal energy, life force energy, whatever you want to call it. And that energy that's in the trees aren't judging themselves or one another. They aren't saying, "Oh, tree, you're too tall, you're too short, you're too fat, you don't have enough leaves, you're not green enough." They just are. They just are. And so I always ask this question, why do we do it as humans? Why do we go into judging ourselves and one another? And it really does start in our childhood, because when we first come into the world as babies, we're not judging ourselves. If we throw up on ourselves, or we have carrots and peas or squash all over our face, all over our clothes, or we just, as a baby, we just took a really big shit and it's all up our backs. We're not saying, "Oh my God, I'm so freaking unworthy because look at me, I'm a mess right now." Or when we're crying as babies and we have ugly cries, we're not like worrying or thinking, "Oh my God, who's looking at me? And I'm not acting and behaving the way that I should." We just are. We're just being ourselves. So it is through conditioning, through our caregivers and through the people that we interact with, that we start to take on these beliefs of, "Oh, ouch, I cannot be myself. It's not safe to show up as a hot mess. I can't be imperfect. I have to be like perfect all the time. And my emotions and my feelings are not allowed." And because we receive these kinds of messages repeatedly, we start to wear a mask. We start to cover up and protect our hearts and protect our true selves. And we hide our true self, like, "Oh, it's not safe anymore." And this type of covering over and hiding and not showing up as our true selves will wear away and chip away at our belief in ourselves, to believe in our true nature and our true self. So we start to doubt ourselves. We start to lose confidence, lose our self esteem over time. And what I'm here to say, and the message that I want to impart and spread to other people, is that no, it is so important to be your true self. It is so important to do the inner work and heal those childhood wounds so that you can come into your wholeness. You can believe in yourself, and that no one on the outside will shake or rattle you to the core. So there used to be a time throughout my life when I was so dependent on being liked, having another person's approval. I hated it when my mom was mad at me, or if I wasn't included or invited to a party or to a friend's house. It was excruciating painful when I didn't have my husband's approval. And that kind of living, again, goes back to that imprisonment of the mind. You feel trapped and you don't feel that you can walk this earth being who you are meant to be. And it's really painful for me to see people in relationships that are so dependent on the other giving attention, giving affection, giving approval. And they base their worth, their belief in themselves based on how much of that attention they're getting from another. And then if, let's just say it's a romantic relationship, if one person in the relationship is wanting more attention, affection, time from the other, and the other's not getting it, and the other's not giving it, there's this immediate sense of, I'm not worthy. Oh, he didn't call me when he said he was going to call me, or I haven't seen him in a while, or I called him 5 times and he still hasn't responded. There's this immediate reaction of, there must be something wrong with me. Not that we say that, or sometimes we might. Some of us might say there's something wrong with me, but oftentimes that runs subconsciously where we are thinking, oh, he must not like me that much. He must not want to talk about me, or he's not thinking about me and he doesn't love me, yada, yada, yada. You get the picture. And so it's my hope for anyone that is in that situation and feeling that way, that it's my hope for those to just really become aware, number one, of what's happening, what's at play, that these are just patterns that you're playing out. And number two, making a decision to make the change. Only you can change your life. Only you can create the relationships that you want, and only you can make the changes. No one out there is going to do it. Honestly, I thought there was a knight in shining armor. I put my husband in that category when we first met 35 years ago. But the truth is, and the reality is, that if I wanted to be free, which I did, and I am free, I had to set myself free. I had to do the work to liberate myself from that mental prison that I was in, and I had to heal. And I had to change the way that I felt about myself. I had to change the way that I looked at life and the way that I showed up without masks. So I'm not going to say that it is an easy journey. It's not easy. It takes commitment, and it takes a willingness to really to feel your feeling, to go into the pain and feel it. Now, that doesn't mean you have to necessarily go back to your childhood and relive all of your childhood experiences. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is, when pain comes up in the present moment, when you're triggered in a moment, is when you go in and do the healing work. That's when you address the pain and you feel it in order to heal it. And then also embracing your childhood self that is struggling and feeling scared or rejected or lonely, anxious, depressed, sad, whatever your child self is feeling, that's when your adult self will come in and help your childhood self. And then you can make different choices about how you show up in the world. So, again, as I round out this conversation, what I just really want to say and emphasize in terms of celebrating yourself, celebrating independence, if you have it, awesome, freaking awesome. If you already feel independent and free from the mental prison that I mentioned, and you totally believe in yourself, you know that you're worthy beyond a shadow of a doubt. You have freedom, you have joy, you have inner peace, you have abundance. If you are in this place, celebrate that, relish it. Like, so freaking awesome. I'm so excited for you and happy for you. If you are not there and you are wanting to be there, I can suggest a couple of things. One is to keep listening to these podcasts because with my solo and guest episodes, we do talk a lot about these various topics and they can offer a lot of insight and wisdom. Secondly, you can seek out the help of a therapist or a coach. I have my 5-step power pathway program where I do help individuals to go through the program where you can identify your mental prison, your patterns, and how to achieve freedom and by healing, just like everything I was just describing a few minutes ago. So you can reach out to me. I can help you with that. And then fourth, if you are still feeling in that place and you wanted more in-depth kind of help with that, I also do hypnosis as well, which really is amazing for going to some really deep rooted pain, even some trauma, and there's that as an option. So you can listen to podcasts, you can read some books. I have a book that will be coming out in the fall. I know that's a long way off, but I outline all of what I just shared with you in my upcoming book, and you can see a therapist, see a coach, do any type of breath work, body work is helpful. Somatic healing are things that I have done to help me heal. And honestly, I love Joe Dispenza. He's really amazing in terms of helping to shift mindset. So anyone that's a mindset coach would also help you. But I believe personally that just mindset alone or positive thinking alone will not do the trick. I believe that it's two prongs where you have to heal the pain, the heart, the body, and the mindset. So it's the mind, body, spirit connection, and all three have to be in alignment. They all have to heal and they have to come together in balance. So those are just some tidbits, some ways in which you can start your journey if you haven't started. If you're on the journey, but you're not all the way on the other end where you have this freedom and peace and abundance and joy, and you're just working along, but you're like, I just am really stuck. I've been at this shit for freaking ever, Kim, and I just can't move out of my own way. I hear you on that because it can take time for some people. It depends. For me, it took a long time. I just kept persevering. I kept chipping away, doing the reps, as Mel Robbins says, doing the reps, doing the work. And then I reached this point, this like tipping point where all of a sudden things just started to click. I was operating on all four cylinders, and therefore this is why I'm able to speak the way I'm speaking to you today. This is why I'm able to write the book that I'm able to write because I've reached the tipping point where I now have had this transformation, and I would love to help you with it if it's something that you are really wanting and desiring for you. What I can say is this: whether you decide to reach out or don't reach out, I just encourage you to really think about what I'm saying because we have just this one life in this lifetime. And the thing that I'm beginning to realize at the age of 55 is that life does go by very quickly. And I, for one, don't want to have regrets at the end of my life that I didn't learn to take off my mask and show my true self in the world. If I went to my deathbed knowing that I hid my true self and what I feel and believe and know in my heart from the people that are important to me, I believe that would be a really big regret. And I don't want that for you, and that's why I did this episode today. For those of you, again, who are in the United States, happy 4th of July, happy Independence Day. And if you enjoyed this episode, as always, I would love and appreciate a review You can go on Apple Podcasts and do a quick 5 stars or a review. You can do the same on Spotify. And of course, if you have questions or you just wanna make a comment, you can comment too. If you're watching this on YouTube, I would love for you to hit that subscribe button, and let's get this content, this information in the hands of more and more people. And I'll say one last thing is that I do love that so many people now are starting to talk about these issues. I think it's freaking amazing how many people are talking about doing the inner work, changing the way that we show up in life. And there's so many different ways of saying it or hearing it. And it just really depends on how it resonates with you. Maybe you resonate with the way I share, with the way I tell stories. Maybe some people resonate more with, I don't know, Dr. Shafali or Mel Robbins or Lewis House. Those are some of my favorites, by the way, or Brene Brown. And so some people may just choose to listen to those people, which is totally fine. It's like whoever you resonate with and connect with is who you should continue to follow and listen. Okay, until next Thursday, have a great week.